Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. My name's Sean Wasserkrug, and today we're going to be reviewing one of my more anticipated films of the fall, and that is Amazon Prime's Cassandro. Now, for many people who have known from this channel, because I've mentioned it many, many times before, is that I used to be a professional wrestler. So when we do get pro wrestling movies that come out, I am excited, but I'm also incredibly harsh on them for multiple reasons. I mean, you have your Nacho Libres, which to me I think are making fun of pro wrestling and really piss me off. But then you have movies like Ready to Rumble, which I loved, or The Wrestler, which I think is probably one of the truest depictions of pro wrestling, especially on the independent circuit. It's with pro wrestling movies, it's a very much of a double-edged sword. I love to watch them, but I am also very harsh on the movies that I review about them because I want them to hit the right notes. I want them to be treated with respect and not looked at as a joke or not to look at for cheap laughs. And but with this, we get two wrestling movies that come out this year. We've got Cassandro here, and then we also got Iron Claw, which comes out right around Christmas time. Which that movie I am like salivating for a trailer for, because I so badly want to see a trailer of that movie so bad, because it's about the Von Erich family and the casting for it. I just can't wait for that movie to come out. But at first, we get Cassandro. Now, for anyone who doesn't know who Cassandro is, or the story of Cassandro, this follows the true story of Cassandro, the Exotico character created by Saul, I'm going to butcher his last name, Armendariz. I apologize. But he's a gay amateur wrestler from El Paso who rose to international stardom by becoming one of the very first Exotico wrestlers to actually become a winner. Now, for anyone who doesn't know Lucha Libre, Exotico is a wrestler that acts gay, or in drag, but is normally used in terms of a loser wrestler, or in wrestling terms a jobber. He goes out there to, work up the crowd, but never wins. But Cassandro's character, Saul, he wants to be a winner. He doesn't want to be an Exotico because Exoticos never win, but he basically gets talked into becoming one by his friend slash trainer manager Sabrina, played by Roberta Colindrez, and he decides to become Cassandro. Cassandro is played by Gael Garcia Bernal. Most people will know him from Mozart in the Jungle, also on Amazon Prime, and he's phenomenal in that series. You guys should really check it out. But it's about this story and this rise to, because he actually is gay. A lot of Exotico characters actually aren't gay. They're just really good at playing those kinds of characters, and they do it because it gets them in the limelight and, popularity and stuff like that. But also they get the harsh crowd reactions because of homophobic and, stuff like that, or homophobia. But with Cassandro, he's living the life that he's always wanted to live through the Cassandro character, because Saul, in real life, he's very shy and reserved, and he basically lives with his mom, Yocasta, who played by Perla de la Rosa, who's also really great in this film. And he basically, cleans cars. He's a car washer, by day, and then he just goes to wrestling on the weekends and gets beat up by whatever big wrestler. And he basically he loves wrestling so much, but he wants to be a winner. He wants to feel empowered. And he doesn't feel empowered when he's basically just getting beat up by, big dudes who don't want to tell a story, who don't want to put on a performance. They just want to throw him around like a doll and, make themselves look big while not trying to make him look equally as good in the ring, which is something that always bothered me about big wrestlers compared to small wrestlers. But that's a whole wrestling thing that I'll, put aside for another time. But when he becomes Cassandro, it gives him this extra boost of confidence and motivation, and he starts to become a winner, and he starts to get incredibly popular and rise up through the ranks, and starts to be, get booked for big shows and to wrestle legendary Lucha Libre wrestlers, and he starts to get a lot of money, and he starts to buy things. He starts to do drugs, like any rock and roller rise to fame kind of story we go. But the big thing that is running through him is acceptance. Is he wants to be accepted, and he wants to live his life the way he feels he should be able to live his life, and not in the closet, not in the corner, but out and about, flamboyantly proud and accepted through all. So there's this sub story about his father, that he came out to his father when I think he was 14, and his father basically hasn't spoken to him since, and he is not allowed to see his father because he basically came out to him. And so you have this underlying story of acceptance, and his lover is a wrestler who's married to a woman with kids, and so he only sees him on, when it's convenient for that wrestler, and it has to be hidden and no one can know about it. And so with becoming Cassandro, he becomes, this larger than life kind of character. And it is a very well done story, but and Gael Garcia Bernal is phenomenal in this film. He deserves all the award recognition when it comes to award season. I hope he gets it because his performance is fantastic through this film. My problems with this, and this is one of those things, once again, the wrestling mindset of me. For people who aren't wrestling fans, and for people who just want to watch the story, the stuff that I'm going to go over, you guys are not going to notice, you guys aren't going to care about. You guys will watch Cassandro and either love it or hate it, depending on how you feel about, empowerment for the gay community. If you guys are very for it, you're going to love this movie. If you guys aren't for it, you're going to probably not like it, which I'm not going to, pick and choose whose side you're on. But the pro wrestling side of me, the wrestling in this movie is fine. Clearly, Gael Garcia Bernal is not a pro wrestler, so you don't want him to go in the ring and try to do a lot of these crazy ass moves that, trained professionals have been doing for years on end and have had to practice thousands upon thousands of times to perfect to make them look good. So the matches are very basic. The matches are kind of, quick. They don't really make sense. Matches just randomly end without a pin or submission or anything like that. The story elements inside of the wrestling matches are severely lacking. I think they could have done a way better job of that coming from a former professional wrestler. I don't think the action is bad, but it is very, and Brian, my co-host, he'll say this, is like when you watch someone who's an actor who's trying to do a fight scene and they're not very coordinated, you can kind of see them going, like, in their head, and 1, and block, and 2, and 3, and 4. And the wrestling in this kind of is like that to a point where it's very safe, and except for, when you get your action shots and you can clearly tell that it's, stunt doubles. So I do wish that the wrestling was a little more authentic and a little better rehearsed and a little better put together story-wise inside the ring. But the other part is that the Cassandro character, they've actually done legitimate documentaries on this. There's so much of this story that they did not tell. And a lot of it is a lot like Bohemian Rhapsody. We got to see the glitz and glamour and the bright spots of Freddie Mercury's career. We didn't get to see so much of the darkness. Like, we got to see some of it, but not a lot of it. There's so much of the Freddie Mercury story that a lot of people know that Bohemian Rhapsody just didn't want to tell. They wanted to keep it exciting and fun and flamboyant. And Cassandro is kind of the same way. This movie is full on about him being accepted and him coming out of the shadows and being, gay and proud and inspiring people to be able to do the same. And that story that they tell is incredibly well done. And I commend them for that story. But there's a lot of story there with the Cassandro character, with his drug addiction and his jumping from different companies and having issues with certain companies based off of his sexual orientation and injuries and stuff like that, and all these other kind of things that they could have touched upon, or that they looked like they were going to touch upon, but they didn't want to go down that road, so they kind of just gave you a taste but didn't really delve into it, which kind of makes the stories feel a little incomplete. There's they have this they show you him doing cocaine, but you don't see how bad it gets because they decided they didn't want to show that. There's certain situations with certain wrestlers that they make an inkling to, like there's a conversation with him and his lover saying that, hey, the guys in the back think you're getting too big and you need to calm down a little bit, and you keep thinking that something's gonna happen, they're going to have a comeuppance thing for him because of his rise, but they don't. There's certain characters that come in and there are story beats that are started and you think they're gonna come to something and they don't. it's a little frustrating because I know where that story goes. I know, based off the documentary and stuff, where they could have taken the story, and had they done that, I do think the story could have been done a lot better. But I get what their main story point was. This movie was supposed to be inspirational and powerful to the point where they wanted you to feel, this tribute to Lucha Libre and this tribute to Cassandro, and they wanted all of this, glitz and glamour and look, he did it kind of thing. And while Cassandro is a very, prolific wrestler and he's well known for what he does, there is dark sides to this story, and the movie just did not decide to do that. They like to tease it, but they wouldn't delve into it, and because of that, that does hurt my score a little bit as well. I wish they just wouldn't have played it safe. There are things in this movie that they don't play safe, which I actually commend them for pulling it off, because even I was like, oh wow, they're actually going to do this. But there are certain storyline elements, like Bohemian Rhapsody, where they could have gone for the darker story, and they chose not to. None of that is against any of the actors in this film. I think, like I said, all of them do a stellar job, especially Gael Garcia Bernal. But overall, for me, in terms of a wrestling story, if you're a wrestling fan, I think you're still going to find the story fascinating. I think you're still going to enjoy the story. If you're not a wrestling fan, I think the inspirationalness of the Cassandro character and his rise from hiding in the shadows to becoming one of the most prolific gay wrestlers in professional wrestling history, I think is going to be something really, watchable for you, especially if it gets that recognition towards award season. I think you guys are going to enjoy that to a point. The wrestler in me, though, feels like this movie could have been stronger with the wrestling aesthetics of this. I feel like there are story elements that are dropped that could have been more fleshed out, and the darker sides of the Cassandra story really should have been shown, but they didn't want to basically put him in a bad light, like they do with Freddie Mercury and Bohemian Rhapsody. They didn't want to show the dark sides of everything. So for me, I still recommend this movie. I'm happy with what I got, but I really wish they just would have went full-blown with it and didn't try to play it safe. But for me, I'm going to give the score of Cassandro a 79%. This is on Amazon Prime right now for everyone to check out. It's also in theaters, so if it's in your local theaters, definitely something worth checking out, or like I said, watch it at home on Amazon Prime. But I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you guys did, go ahead and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, you have to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Coming up next, we will have a non-spoiler and spoiler review for Hulu's No One Will Save You. Myself and Brian Michaels will be discussing that movie because it's definitely something worth discussing. We will also be back here this week for this week's Weekly Crusaders, where we talk about 2 movies that come out during this week in movie history. Also, last week I dropped another review roundup where I talked about 5 movies that came out during over the last few weeks that I finally got to catch up on because I was on vacation this week. So check out that review for all those movies. This week, in terms of releases, we've got Saw X, which I will not be seeing because I have not seen the last 3 Saws, and also The Creator, which if I get time to see it, I will definitely check that out, and if I do, there will be a review for that as well. But yeah, until next time, in case I don't see you, go watch the movies, go have some fun.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.